History remembers wars by the thunder of artillery, the roar of tanks, and the movement of armies. But some of history's darkest chapters happened not on the battlefield, but in silence. A knock at the door, a whisper in the night, a name quietly erased. This is the story of the NKVD, the Soviet Union's feared internal security organization, and the men who vanished into its shadows. To understand the NKVD, we must go back to the chaos following the Russian Revolution of 1917. After the Bolsheviks seized power, revolutionary leader Vladimir Lenin faced civil war, resistance, and political enemies on every side. To secure the fragile new communist government, Lenin authorized the creation of a secret police organization known as the Cheka. Its mission was simple and terrifying: find enemies, eliminate opposition, protect the revolution at any cost. Over the years, the organization evolved through several names. First, the GPU, then OGPU, and eventually in 1934 became part of the newly formed NKVD, short for the People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs. Within the NKVD operated the GUGB, the main Directorate of State Security. This was the Soviet Union's secret police apparatus. Its reach extended into nearly every aspect of life: factories, military units, government offices, apartment buildings, even families. Under Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, the NKVD transformed from a security agency into one of the most feared instruments of state power in modern history. During the 1930s, Stalin believed enemies lurked everywhere: political rivals, military officers, farmers accused of resisting collectivization, intellectuals, religious leaders, ordinary citizens, and sometimes people were targeted for almost no reason at all. Fear became policy. The late 1930s saw what became known as the Great Purge, or the Great Terror. Between 1936 and 1938, millions of Soviet citizens were arrested, interrogated, imprisoned, deported, or executed. Many accusations were absurd: sabotage, espionage, treason, counter-revolutionary activities. Sometimes merely speaking critically of the government or being associated with the wrong person could mean arrest. The NKVD often worked under arrest quotas. Entire regions were pressured to identify supposed enemies. Investigations frequently relied on forced confessions extracted through intimidation, harsh interrogations, and brutal prison conditions. People disappeared overnight. A black car outside, heavy footsteps in the hallway, a knock at the door. Families often never saw loved ones again. Children were sometimes told their parents had simply gone away. The Gulag system became one of the NKVD's most infamous responsibilities. Far across Siberia and remote parts of the Soviet Union stood sprawling forced labor camps. Prisoners worked in forests, mines, railroads, construction, and individual projects under brutal conditions. Freezing temperatures, starvation, exhaustion, diseased. Many never returned. Yet, for all its brutality, the system was designed not only to punish, but to control. The message was clear: do not question authority, do not stand out, do not speak. Then came World War II, or as it became known in the Soviet Union, the Great Patriotic War. The NKVD adapted to wartime duties. It guarded railroads and strategic infrastructures, conducted counterintelligence, hunted suspected spies and collaborators, managed prisons and prisoner transports, and formed armed NKVD divisions that fought on the front lines in some of the war's fiercest battles. One of the most controversial was the use of blocking detachments, units positioned behind Soviet troops during parts of the war to stop disorderly retreat and enforce discipline, particularly during desperate moments of fighting. The NKVD also participated in mass deportations of ethnic populations accused of disloyalty, including Chechens, Crimean Tatars, and others, uprooted from their homes and transported under devastating conditions. And then there was Katyn. In 1940, thousands of Polish military officers and intellectuals were executed by Soviet authorities in what became known as the Katyn Massacre. For decades, responsibility was denied. Only later would the Soviet government formally acknowledge the truth. The men leading the NKVD became infamous in their own right. Nikolai Yevhoz oversaw some of the bloodiest years of the Great Purge. So feared was his reign that the period became known as the Yezhov-Zhina, the time of Yezhov. But even he was not safe. Like many before him, Yezhov eventually fell victim to the same machinery he once commanded. He was arrested, accused, and executed. He was replaced by Lavrenti Beria, a figure whose name would become synonymous with repression, surveillance, and political terror. Even the hunters could become the hunted. After Stalin's death in 1953, the Soviet state slowly restructured its security services. The NKVD disappeared into new organizations, eventually giving rise to the KGB, a name the world would come to know during the Cold War. Yet, the legacy of the NKVD remains difficult to ignore. To some, it represented stability during a dangerous era. To many others, it represented fear, a government watching its own people, a midnight knock at the door, and the terrifying reality of what can happen when suspicion becomes policy and power goes unquestioned. History is not only written by victories. Sometimes it is written by those who disappeared.